Welcome, everybody, to another illuminating episode of Boundary Breakers. Today, we're going to be delving into the extraordinary journey of an individual who, much like members of our own team and many representatives of our society, have transformed their personal challenges into boundless creativity. So, prepare to be moved with our topic today, shadows to sculptures and crafting a life of resilience and triumph, where we will explore how Ramón Ramos, our amazing guest, has defied conventions and reshaped his field with unwavering passion and innovation. So, why don't you join us in his resilience and creativity and talk about the profound impact that he's looking to have and how our lives and beyond are interwoven into this topic. So, I am your host, Piper McLean, and let's get right into it. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Raymond?
Hi, yeah. Well, thanks for the introduction. It's like really flattering.
Mhm.
Um, well, yeah, my name is Ramón Ramos, and I'm originally from Spain, from the city of Madrid. And I moved to Canada about 8 years ago, 6 years in Montreal, and now 2 years in Vancouver. I'm 58 years old. I'm gay. I think this is relevant for the kind of conversation we're going to have.
Mhm.
Um, I'm an artist, well, we will get into that. I've been doing like many different disciplines. My regular job is on visual effects.
Mhm.
I do visual effects for movies and for TV series, mostly TV series during the last few years. And yeah, I think this is pretty much it
Yeah, that
in a nutshell.
definitely gives us a great overview and kind of a little bit of a window into who you are. How was it, originally being from Spain and then living in Montreal, where obviously you're speaking a lot of French, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. When I moved to Montreal, I didn't speak any French, and when I left, I didn't speak a lot of French either. I learned some, but I never was like completely fluent, and that was kind of like a setback.
Mhm.
Um, but it was more circumstances that drove me there because my original idea was Vancouver, but it didn't happen. So yeah, but it was not my first time in North America. I lived in Seattle actually
Okay.
for years, like between the year 96 to 2000. So yeah, I was not like completely new to
Were
that.
you pursuing your current career path when you were in Seattle?
Not really. Like actually, it was like a relationship what made me move,
Oh,
but it
okay. Yep. A lot of people will pack up for that sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but no, it also helped actually with my professional career, like because back in the day, um, like when I went back to Spain, it was like a big thing that I have to work in the US, for
Mhm.
oh, he
The
has been
American
working.
dream, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So even though the type of work I was doing there was pretty much the same, I was doing in Spain. It has this aura, this glow around you. So it doesn't happen anymore, I think. But yeah, so it helps definitely
Mhm. Totally.
professionally.
So, while we are on the topic of you pursuing the current career that you have professionally, why don't you show the audience a little bit about what you're currently doing? And I see you're in your beautiful studio right now. So, let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you mean about my paper art? Yeah. Well, this is something I have been doing for probably the last 6 years. Um, it was something completely new because I have been doing a lot of things before. And I don't know, it just like happened, when something like really, matches and everything is perfect.
That click. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started working on that and I got so much into it. And I don't know, it just became something at this point that I cannot imagine myself without doing it. Because it's more than anything, I think that art is a therapy.
Mhm.
So yeah, and so yeah, and if you want, I can show you. Or
Oh, please, please do.
well, let me. Uh, this. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're going remote now.
so here are some examples of the pieces I do. As you can see, they're
Wow.
like this paper sculpture is three-dimensional.
Yeah,
Um,
the shadows and the red. That's crazy.
yeah,
Wow, this is beautiful. How long does a piece like this usually take you?
that's the question everybody asks me.
Yeah.
I would say a long time. Like for example, something like this would take between 1 or 2 months.
Oh my gosh. And how many
Yeah,
hours a day are you working on these?
no, no, but I don't do it full time. That's the thing. Because I have my regular job doing visual
Yes, of
effects.
course.
So yeah, it's
Oh, this one's unique.
yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm glad you like it too.
Yeah,
Like
it's like you're mixing a couple different techniques here. I could totally see that.
yeah, no, yeah, like it has like some kind of like an optical effect
Yes.
ingredient, and I don't know. It's
Hmm.
what else? I have more here.
Yeah, this one's cool. This is like a rippling wave, but like the geometric is giving me like a super retro futurism vibe.
Yeah, yeah. I got that sometimes. Like people tell me that it looks like retro future, which
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Or I don't know, like this, I think it looks like a kind of like alien in
Yes, it kind
many
of
ways.
reminds me of like DNA, like, what is it? Manipulation of like DNA and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, it could be that definitely. So yeah, I mean, many sometimes I think I'm like working in too many different styles, if that makes sense. Like as if I am still exploring, you know,
Yeah.
uh, which I like it. I some artists kind of like find one subject and they
And
keep like
stick to
going on and
that.
on with that. I'm not at that point. I don't know if it's something is going to happen eventually or not. I just follow
Yeah. Well,
my
there's just
creativity.
yeah, and there's just so many different ways that you could take your work. And if you are, sticking to one like certain style, like you were saying, then maybe missing out the opportunity to learn about different styles.
Yes, that's correct. Although I don't know, because like some people say that if you want to promote yourself in an art gallery, like art galleries, like usually they're asking you for the same thing over and
Yes.
over,
Mhm.
because they're like, okay, this is what we sell, we don't want to risk or things
Mhm.
like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because for those of you that may not know, Raymond was actually nominated by our very first guest we've had in our show, John Ferry. And in our episode, we talked a lot about how restrictive working with a gallery often is because of that same reason.
Yeah, I think so. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you have to understand that art galleries are just business.
Yeah.
They are not art lovers. They are
Hmm.
they are businesses. They,
They're
they just
here
want to make
for the
money.
ching ching, of course.
So it's like, yeah, this is beautiful, but I'm not gonna sell it. So I'm
Hmm.
not interested. Or
Hmm.
so it's it's tricky.
Yeah,
So
for sure, for sure. So I'm sure the audience is very excited to kind of see a little bit into your creative process. And I'm pretty sure you have a little bit of a demonstration prepared for us, right?
yeah, I have, but it's like a very, very little, just to give a little, very little example of what I do. Like for example, I design all of my pieces on the computer
Okay.
on 3D, and
Mm-hmm.
after that, the 3D software has a function that unfolds the object.
Yeah.
So that unfold, I transfer it to a cutting machine. And the cutting machine pretty much gets me something like this, right?
Okay, which is kind of like it gives me the vibe of a flower, but definitely with like sharper angles and stuff.
Yeah, so basically, it's not very visible, but it has like also the lines where you have to
Oh, yes, I can
fold
see
it.
that.
So
Mm-hmm.
you see, so I can just fold it where it's marked, and basically I have a tab here, and let me get some glue. Oh, I'm kind of off camera here. Sorry.
That's okay. We can imagine what's going on. Yeah, I can see you're also using a very detailed nozzle. I can imagine because it's you're using such small and precise little
Yeah, like
movements.
so you see, like I just glue this, and well, more or less we have a piece. In this case, it
Okay.
has it's
Like a clamshell
like a
shape.
shell. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And yeah, so this is a very simple one, but it gets more complicated. Like for example, let me show you. This is the one that I just finished or almost finished.
This is crazy. It's like a
I'm
cityscape.
still gluing it,
Hmm.
but yeah. So like if you see like a lot of work
These
and detail and
boxes,
everything,
yeah. Hmm.
and every little piece has different colors, so every color has to be like another piece. Uh, so yeah, I like for example this piece. I started working on it maybe a year ago.
Oh
So
my gosh. Well, it is
yeah,
huge, so that makes sense.
yeah, it's the largest one I have done so far. So yeah.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine like just the amount of focus you need to like turn these tiny little pieces like that shell into this huge project.
Yeah, yeah, that's why in general, like all the pieces are not too big because like takes a lot of work. So
Hmm. Totally. So, jumping back a little bit, earlier you talked about how this sort of art and creative expression is a sort of therapy. So, do you have recollection of your earliest memories where you were drawn to art and this creative realm?
yeah, I guess so. Like like because one of the things that I didn't mention is that I have done like a lot of different things besides paper sculpture. Like I started when I was a kid with music,
Mhm.
and then with I used to love comics. So my dream as a teenager was to be like a comic author. And so I would write the stories and I would draw like also them. And I have done a lot of photography, illustration, painting. Then I got into writing also, that I guess it's linked to the comic part of telling stories. And yeah, like actually one of my novels was published in Spain. So that
Really?
was like a yeah, like a milestone for me. Uh, and yeah, I did also for a while a very interesting photography project, and so I have been all over the place, and now I'm doing this, which I think I'm gonna stick with this, but you never know.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I have been always doing something, and when I was a kid, there was like always music. I think like even when I was like 6 or 7, I think that my mom took me with my sister to learn guitar,
Mhm.
and we used to sing at the school and things like that. So, um, but yeah, and also like I suppose that in my teenage years when I got into like comics a lot. Um, I think it was more like I needed to do. I mean, it was like my way to escape somehow to reality, I
Okay.
suppose. Because yeah, I used to have like some friends, but when you turn a teenager and you're gay, like suddenly your friends are just looking
They're
as
like, "Do you want
girls,
to date me
and
or
they just want to
something?"
kiss girls and everything. I was like, oops, I'm not. So suddenly you kind of lose your friends because, you know. So I got into comics and into music just because I didn't have many friends.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I suppose that's a way to turn like a negative thing into something positive or
beautiful.
creative.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
And I love that you bring this up because a lot of artists also feel that this creative realm is something as an escape as well because they may not be following the straight and narrow. They may be a bit different or have other interests. And creativity is so unique in that you are able to become the pioneer of what you're doing. Like you're able to take some of that control back into your own hands and decide what you're going to turn it into.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah. No, no. I'm again. I go to the first point that like I think that doing any creative thing, it's just like it's therapy, and sometimes you don't even need to do like something extremely original because we all start kind of doing the same. It's a process. So you have to go through making any type of art that has been already done, but it's
Mhm.
it's like a learning process. So you have to go through all these steps,
Mhm.
and it might be a while until you do something really original because it is what it is.
Yeah.
Unless you are like I don't know Picasso or something
Yeah.
like that, but yeah. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of follow what what you really like, what makes you feel good. Like
Mhm.
so, not more the idea of oh, I would like to be an artist, or because I never had that,
Yeah.
in my mind. I never thought about myself really like oh, I want to do this. On the contrary, I never thought I was doing everything for myself. I was never, at least at the beginning, thinking this could become something. It was just like for myself. As a matter of fact, like I started like drawing as a teenager, and I was doing like in secret because I thought that my parents, when they would find out, they were gonna tell me, "What are you doing? Don't do that. It's a waste of time." So the first time my dad saw me like drawing comics, I was terrorized, and then he's like, "Okay." I was like,
Oh,
"I can
thank God.
continue doing this." So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that this idea of reinventing the wheel is something that is very common in business, and it's very interesting that you are kind of reflecting this same perspective, but in the art realm. And you're completely right in that no idea is truly original because there's been if there's like 8 billion people on the planet right now, imagine just how many have been in the
Yeah.
past. So if you're thinking something, unless you're like you said, a genius or what do they call that? Like a protege, you're most likely not the first person to ever think of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like for example, I saw that a lot when I was writing, because for several years I was attending like a writing workshop.
Hmm.
It was just like really entertaining to see how like all of us would write like the same type of stories at the beginning,
Yeah.
like something biographical or something that has to pretends to be like huge and it's terrible, and then but you have to go through that, because it's just like something that you have to get out of your mind or your body or your system,
Hmm.
um and then after that you start like doing the real thing.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Yeah, that is a testament exactly to that point. And I'd like to touch a little bit on how this sort of craft developed in you. So, you mentioned a little bit about your dad. So, how did your upbringing influence your decision to pursue art, considering any challenges or lack of support there may have been?
uh yeah, I guess, it was it was difficult, I guess. it influences like in a bad way. I don't know, or maybe the opposite, because the more you have things against you, the more that you push and that you get stronger about it. So mm, yeah, and I don't know, like when I grew up, I used to think of myself as an alien, like in the suburb that I was growing up. My dad was his whole life a fishmonger, and I was supposed to be like doing the same and working in this market, like and we were not supposed to study much besides high school.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you grow up in environments where you are meant to do like certain things,
Mm-mm.
and it's very difficult to break that and
Yeah.
say no, because neither your family, your friends, your environment, they're going to understand. They're going to think that you are pretentious, or that you are like why why do you get like so complicated? This is very easy, just go the way. And it's like, no, it's not that I want to go against it, because I wish I could, and I would like feel comfortable doing that, but I just can't.
Yeah.
So you just have to fight
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
somehow.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that struggle was definitely something that, took a big toll on you as a person. And, a lot of people feel pressure from their parents to, either follow in their footsteps, like take over the family business, or, if they were doctors, they want you to pursue that. And that struggle of you not wanting to follow that pathway at all must have been so difficult for you.
Yeah, I guess.
Hmm.
It's but it's difficult, but it's you don't have other choice. It's like and because I don't think it's a matter to surrender to like what they are telling you, like, because it's never gonna happen. It's If you are not meant to do that, you're never gonna do it. It's more a matter of then understanding that that's not gonna happen, because it's not right. That that's not your way. So yeah, I guess it's and sometimes your family never understand, because I got into the visual effects business back in the day. I started working on visual effects in the year 89, so that's
Okay.
pretty early. And back in the day, that was work that was for advertisement, not for movies, because computers were not like still ready to for that. So, and I was working on that, and it was through my portfolio of comics and illustration that I got that
That
internship
gig.
in a company. Yeah, because there was no school, there was nothing. And I remember that like when I was working on that, I was still like doing illustration and drawing. And one day my mom was asking me like, but why are you still doing this? You are already a grown up, and why are you like drawing still? And like, you don't understand that I have this job that is so amazing because of drawing, that you thought that it was like childish. And she wouldn't understand like even my job. She was like, when I would ask her, it's like, aren't you proud? And she's like, "Mm, I cannot be proud because I don't understand what you do. I
Yeah.
would prefer that you be like a cashier in a bank." For her, that was like the big thing, that her friends would go to the bank and I would like handle their money. That's my song, in the morning. And she's like, no. I don't understand what you do. I cannot explain it to my friends, so I cannot brag about it. So I was like, okay.
And I think that sort of, misunderstanding or, lack of understanding is relatable for a lot of people that are, pursuing something that goes against the thoughts that their parents originally had for them. And that is character building. And I feel like that sort of character building would be reflective of your artistic development and moving further into this path that you're choosing for yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. But it also takes a toll because like even today I still have like the imposter syndrome
Yeah.
because it feels like you're doing something that you're not supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and other people, and I still have that, like even in my job after 30 years of doing it, even on art. But I guess that I'm now like at the point that I'm not really, I don't care much because I don't think I have to demonstrate anything. I don't have to, I'm happy with myself and do what I do, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
You are totally right about that. And why don't we delve a little bit deeper into, this sort of development? So, would you be able to tell us a little bit about a project or collaboration that you've done in the past that has been particularly transformative of your career?
well, I'm not gonna transformative. Probably I'm more like into the visual effects field. I would say that I'm very proud about some of the projects that I worked, working with some directors or working on some TV series like Game of Thrones or something like that. It's like, it's very rewarding. So yeah, it's more like that, I think.
I am a big fan of Game of Thrones. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit on about your work that you did on that project?
Yeah, actually, this was like really really good because actually what I do in visual effects, I'm a compositor. With basically I'm the one that takes all the elements from the CG, the blue screen, the whatever, all the elements, and I put them all together to make them look nice. So like I'm at the very last step of the visual effects. But like when I worked for Game of Thrones, I was also a matte painter. And matte painters, what they do is like they draw like the backgrounds, or with Photoshop and with like and that's thanks to my artistic background that I was doing that. And for Game of Thrones, they were asking us to do like a background for one episode that was like the background for, I don't remember the episode, or it's like when they go to the wildings, and there is this huge
Oh,
war that all the
yes.
zombies go to the to
Hmm.
the to the village of the wildings. Well, I did all that background, and the thing is that they asked us for something very simple, and they gave us some photographs, and it's like, we want this, and I did all that, but I was like, no, I want to do something better.
Yeah.
So I did something different, and then my supervisor was like, no, they are asking for this, and I was like, please, 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 but also
I
send them also
insist.
this,
Yeah.
just, and they select that, so that made me so happy.
Yeah. And if you didn't take a chance on yourself and your own creativity, that would have done a disservice to everybody because they wouldn't have seen um the amazing creation that you came up with in your head. And I
Exactly.
think it's fabulous that you ended up working on that because all of the, from a Game of Thrones nerd myself, all of the imagery beyond the wall is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So good
Yes.
job.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right. So you mentioned earlier that you were involved in so many different art forms before you really got into this 3D paper sculpting, from your comics to your photography, your painting, etc. So, how do you integrate your knowledge from these different artistic disciplines into what you're currently doing?
Well, that's a good question. And actually, I think that well, in terms of the paper sculpture, obviously, a sense of color, composition, all that comes from from previous experiences, and also from my work. But what is really funny is that I realized that something that I thought it was completely useless for many years has been like completely
Yeah.
useful now. And you know, when I finished elementary school and it was the time to go to high school, I didn't want to go to high school. I hated studying, and my older sister had been to high school and she dropped because she thought it was like horrible. So I was terrified because it was the smart one, and it was like, so you know, there was like some discussion, and finally we decided. My parents talked to me about going to like a community college, you
Mhm.
know, and like the options that I was looking at, I wasn't sure, and I decided to study like draftsman. That back in the day, now everything is done with computer, but back in the day, you will have to draw like all the blueprints for the architects and all that.
Okay.
And I was doing that for 5 years, and then I worked as a draftsman for several years after that. So, of course, there was like involved like so much geometry, so much patience, so much like precision. And I realized that that's like exactly what I needed for
Yeah.
this paperwork,
Hmm.
which is something, you know, that at the moment I did, I was not very happy because I chose to do that because I would like I like comics and drawing, but you know, there's a big difference between technical drawing and
And forming it
creating.
in your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, but I think that that has been like a huge help to what I do now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah, and I think that the beauty of, education and pursuing other people's experiences in, whether it's art or whatever you're pursuing in your education, is that you get to see the life and the things that other people have experienced, and that will ripple into what you are going to take from, engaging in this sort of class and mentorship.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And also like you never know like what's going to be helpful. Like it's really good to learn from everything, any subject, any you never know how useful it's going to be. So
Hmm.
that's also like a lesson that I learned.
Yep, you never know what is going to be impactful. And that's kind of the beauty of, us being collective and creative beings, is that we are so influenced by one another. And, obviously that may not always have a positive impact, but a lot of the time it does.
Absolutely.
So, while we are talking a bit about this sort of impact that art has, what are your aspirations for the future of your artistic career and the impact that you hope to make?
Oh,
I know that's a big one.
well, it's a big one, but at the same time, it's like when you talk to me about the future, and I think about I'm 58, it's like what future? I'm in the future already. So, but I don't know. Like the impact, it's definitely something that I don't think it's on my hands. I'm always happy and to you know to share and everything, but I'm not like a very social person, so it's a little bit difficult. But you know, like doing things like this that we are doing now, I think it's very good. Just you know, we all have a story, and sometimes it can be useful, as you say, you know, to know, and we can compare experiences, and so it's a good thing. And I don't know. I just for me, it's just keep creating.
Mhm.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to do.
And that is some of the beauty that there is behind art, because a lot of the things that art is expressing and portraying doesn't need to be said. It speaks for its own self. Whether it is dancing or, paper sculpture or painting or singing, the emotion is so clear in what has been created, and people will pick up from that piece of art what they currently need in the moment, and it's going to be perceived in so many different ways. So even if you are not involved in the word and the speaking aspect, your work is gonna do that for you, really.
Yeah, I suppose. And I don't know, like I have been like asked through Instagram many times. People is like, "Oh, do you teach how to do that?" And wherever I'm like, no, no. I learned that this myself, and I think that if anybody wants to do it, they should like go through the
Yeah.
process.
Hmm.
But I have been rethinking that, and you know, if I can make it easier for other people, why not? My path has been like struggling, but it doesn't have to be everybody's path, So, and as a matter of fact, I have like a couple of months ago, I had a group of friends over, and we did like a workshop, and I was like showing them, and I had some pieces prepared. As a matter of fact, the one that I was just showing
Yeah,
you,
the big
it,
one, right?
no, the one that I was assembling,
With
this
the
is part of the
shells.
workshop that I gave them. So it was like really nice, and each one of them like left the workshop with their own paper piece that they made themselves. So that was like really nice actually. So I don't know. I'm digging into that lately much more than I used to.
Yeah, and what a beautiful insight that is. And I feel like that is something that a lot of, older people in our generation kind of feel, and it creates a little bit of animosity because if I had to struggle, why shouldn't they have to? And
Right.
I think that your, reflection, how it's sort of changing and thinking, well, just because I did doesn't mean they have to. I think that is really amazing because it shows that our society is changing and becoming more collective and that we want to help one another. So I would just love to perpetuate that idea as much as we can.
Yes. And the unfortunately, like the struggle is going to happen always.
Mhm.
So we are
It's
always going
just
to
a
struggle no
different
matter
sort of
what.
struggle.
So just if we make things a little bit easier, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Exactly. And it's the times that are changing. People are going to be struggling with different things today than people were when you were growing up. Like, for instance, everything is so expensive today. And, minimum wage doesn't really cover that. And, unless you're working, you know, three minimum wage paying jobs as a young person in school and with your responsibilities and whatnot, that is a really big struggle. I know I am super privileged to have two parents that work in the oil field, making the
You know,
money, uh, who can support me, but I can't even imagine people that don't have parents that support them the way mine do.
no, you're absolutely right. Because, when I think about my youth and how difficult were things in some aspects, but now I think of the present generations, like they have it like really hard in different ways in other aspects. Like, for example, for me it was difficult because I was gay, and back in the day it
Hmm.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
Now that's not a big deal, but there are like other things that are like a lot worse, as you say. Like everything is really expensive. Like everybody's struggling, and it's not a better world in the better world in some aspects than it was. So yeah,
Yeah.
I,
Thank you so
I, I
much.
feel that
Hmm.
younger generations, they will have to fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all that saying that some older people say, oh, you don't know what it is to be like this and that, but yeah, people know in a different way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're so right. The times are changing, the challenges are changing, but they are still present and they are still prevalent. And we need to talk about these sort of things so that we as a society can work and support one another however we can.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Collaboration, and I mean, the opposite is just going to drive us to chaos.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yours.
that's for everything.
Mm-hmm.
If we become like selfish, um, you know, it's just I don't want to get into politics, but
Mm-hmm.
everything that promotes selfishness, I think it's really negative. So
Mm-hmm. 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 You're so right. And yeah, without diving too deep into that, those that have the power to make real change are usually the ones that are most affected by that selfishness and that corruption. So
mm,
we need to fight our little fight, all of us people that do acknowledge this, and collaborate together and see if we can make whatever impact we can.
absolutely, absolutely.
We talked a little bit about you know what the youth are going through these days and how that differs from what you were going through when you were growing up. So, what advice do you have for young artists that may be facing, the challenges of today or similar challenges that you did growing up? Um, and yeah, what would you say to these growing artists and individuals?
Just keep going because I mean, I cannot imagine what their struggles are now. Well, as I was saying, probably they are very different. So I cannot put myself in their shoes, but like I know that if you feel that you want to do something and I don't know, it, art for me it was always like a part of me or being creative. So it's not that I mean you just have to fight for just for people letting you do it, not for you to do it because you're going to be always doing that. So just keep going.
Hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh,
uh I'm not going to say that things will be easier or anything, but the other thing is that we have like a lot of course we make plans and we create ourselves like images, or I would like to be that things will be like this and that, and that I would become this. And I think that's great, and we have to do that. But those are just plans. Like reality, always like is different. Nothing is going to happen as we are imagining. But also, like I would like to say that life, let life surprise you, because there are so many things that we don't even know they are out there, and because we don't know, we just play in our minds with the elements that we know, and we get to the conclusion that, oh, this is going to be like this is not good. But there are so many things that are unexpected that can happen to you in life, and that can, so many good things.
mhm.
So also keep that in mind, when everything seems like, oh, this is not going to work, I don't see any good exit to this situation, you might be surprised.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah, and let those surprises take you where they will, because we only live this life one time, and why face regrets for not jumping for something when you don't know where it could have taken you, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
also like that you mentioned that we live this life only once. I think also that it's good to have an idea that, for at least for me, the feeling I have through now, it's that we live like many different lives, not just once. Like
Yes, I'm a firm believer in that idea as well.
yeah, like if I imagine myself in my 20s, it's a completely different person. It's like that's not me. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even recognize myself. Or in
Mm-hmm.
my 30s, like there are so many things that happen that transforms you, and I think that we have to let ourselves be transformed. We don't have to be stubborn, like into no, this is me. I want no, just let things flow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we talked a little bit about development, how things have changed from when you were growing up and facing your challenges, and what youth now are experiencing. And I've prepared a little bit of a game that I think is going to give us a little bit of a different perspective to how time has really changed, even some of the most mundane of things. So let's do a little bit of a break in our conversation and jump right into it.
Okay.
So, I have called this game Time Traveler's Treasures Then and Now.
Oh my God.
So, I'm going to show you some images and I want you to guess what they are, and then I'm going to reveal what they are today, okay? How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, so here's this mechanism on the left. What's coming to your mind about this item?
Oops. It looks like a calculator, but I know it is not. It's something else
Are
for
you
sure.
ready to see what it is?
Okay.
It is actually a
Oh.
calculator. I was like, no way he actually guessed that.
Okay. It
So
looked like
that is
very
actually
complicated.
called a mechanical calculator, and that's what came after, like, the wooden one with the beads, which is, I don't even know what
Uh-huh.
that's called. It's,
Yeah. Oh my God.
you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
The abacus.
The abacus. Yes, that is exactly what it is. So that was the first calculator created after the abacus, and obviously it had all these crazy dials and gears and whatnot. So good job. I thought that was going to be a difficult one. Okay, what is this thing on the right over here?
Oops, I have no idea. It's like some kind of engine, but
Okay,
I don't know what for.
okay. Are you ready to see what it is today?
Okay.
It's actually a fridge, if you can
Oh.
believe it. It's actually a fridge. So if we go back, we can see these like coolant tubes, and like it's just in a wooden
Yes.
box. So, I doubt that kept your food very fresh, but like maybe for a little bit, I guess.
But let me ask you, I think that you are making a mistake with my age. So that's too old for me.
Oh, I'm going beyond your age, of course. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that
Uh,
was from, like, I don't even know. I should have wrote down the date it was from.
yeah,
But
I
yes, that
don't,
is
yeah,
definitely older
that's
than
all.
you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What do you think this item is?
Oh, that's for writing or for sewing.
Which one are you deciding on?
Uh, I'm gonna say for writing.
You are so good at this game. It's actually called the reed pen. So, looking back, why don't you, since you're the artist here, why don't you kind of describe how you would be writing with this thing?
Uh, well, that's the funny thing that when I started like studying draftsman in this community college, at first we would have to do calligraphy with something similar to that, like a metal one,
Yeah.
but like the mechanism, the theory is the same. I suppose that you get the ink, and I see it has like a little hole, and
Hmm.
then probably like a cut where the ink it just like goes very thin there, and then you can when you press actually that gap opens a little bit and then lets the ink spread.
Wow. I think I should have made this game harder for you. Okay, this is one of our final ones.
But that's like a man-made thing, or it's just
That is actually a natural thing that inspired a man made thing.
oh, okay, okay. I don't know, some like a cable, some
Okay.
kind.
Okay, I think I've got you on this one because that
Oh,
was the inspiration for a toothbrush.
yeah, you
So
got me completely.
I'm pretty sure that this is a root. And I might be mispronouncing this, so I'm sorry for anyone. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's called Mizwak. And yeah,
Okay.
that's something natural, and people still use it today, rather than going for the traditional fluoride filled toothpaste, and
Yeah.
Oral B, whatever we got going today. But yeah, you actually did better in this game. I thought I made it very difficult, but I guess not for a professional like you, Raymond.
It was
Okay.
fun. It was fun. Thanks for this.
No, of course. I'm glad you liked it. So, I would like to offer the audience an opportunity to ask you any questions that they may have. And I'm going to dive into some, fantastical ones in the meantime.
Mhm.
So, if you could create an art installation anywhere in the world without any budget constraints, where would it be and what would it depict?
No, that's a question I cannot answer. Like, because I should have known that already, and I haven't. I never thought about it, but like definitely, like I don't know exactly the place, but it would be like in a big space, and obviously like some geometrical sculpture, obviously not made of paper anymore, and it would be something more like. I would say that like a huge installment of like floating shapes or something like that.
Okay.
Like I would have that in my mind. Yeah.
Mm. I think that where you're going with this is super interesting, and then you could like kind of walk yourself through the art almost and like, experience
Yeah.
and like be part of it.
Yeah, that's definitely like I always have been like fascinated with like three-dimensional sensations, like even when I started visual effects, I wanted to do 3D.
Mhm.
Because this is the thing, like back in the late 80s, I saw the first short movies from Pixar. They started with like these short movies, and the first time I saw those, I was like, I want to do this. This is what I want. So, and that was 3D, and I just like show up in some companies back in Madrid, and my idea was to do 3D, but they saw my illustration, and they said, no, you're gonna do 2D. You are like,
Okay. You're
but
like, oh, let
these
me spread my
3 dimensions.
wings.
So, I guess that's also what I really like about my sculptures, that they have a three-dimensional component.
Yeah, you finally got to pursue that dream. So I hope one day you'll have the opportunity to create this physical gigantic piece and that I could be there and, experience it myself.
I would like that too.
All right, next one. If your art could come to life and interact with people, which piece would you choose and why?
Uh, can you repeat the question? I
Mhm.
think.
So, if one of your pieces or projects came
Mhm.
to life, what would you choose and why?
Mm, because you're saying about how people would interact with it and everything, and I think any piece will work because in this paper sculpture discipline, one of the things I found out is that because it's abstract,
Hmm.
it's not figurative. So you are not like you are giving a message that is very, I'm not going to say neutral, but it's very
Hmm.
open. And I always get amazed about how people react. Like for one person, it would look like something, other people would think like things that I never thought about it. And the possibility of having art that triggers people imagination, it's one of the things that I like the most about this. And so in general, like any of my pieces, I think it works for that purpose.
Yep, I think so too. And I could just imagine what they would look like brought to life and like how they would move, especially the piece behind you. I'm like thinking of it's like I think it was like a prehistoric sort of creature where it had like a hard shell on the top and like
Right.
little You know
Right.
exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
piece behind you would totally look like that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The funny thing is that I don't know if you can imagine it, but like if the piece instead of being horizontal would be vertical,
Okay.
it will remind a lot like some kind of religious symbol, like a virgin or something. Like imagine that I'm
Yes, yes.
like I have like
Yes, I
around
can
my
see
head like this,
it. Totally.
and so it's kind of crazy. It's yeah, it's pretty insane
Yeah.
what it can suggest.
Yeah, and you know, the brain, the human mind, that is something we are so blessed with because we are able to think in these, fantastical ways and, really put ourselves in these, out of this world situations and create these insane things. Like, it's amazing being human. Yes, we have our struggles, but, we are living a pretty amazing experience.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Okay, I've got one more question for you today before we end on some, final words. Who is someone from your network or your past or your experience that you think would be an amazing guest to have on our show in the future?
Oh, I will have to think about that. Uh, I have a friend that actually he could, but I haven't talked to him, so I don't want to say his name. But I have someone that has definitely had an experience, also like being an immigrant to several countries. A person, he has like a lot of. He's like an encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he knows about everything, and he has done a lot of things. And I think he's someone that can definitely, and he loves to, you know, because he's a psychologist, so he knows a lot about how to talk people and everything. So yeah, I think that he would be a good candidate, but
Yeah,
I don't want to say
no, of
his name.
course. So
I will ask him.
yeah, we will follow up with you about that. But I think, having that insight from someone who, immigrated over to, this side of the world, completely different experiences, has pursued psychology and has a great understanding of, the human mind, since we were just talking about that. I think he would also be a great asset to have on our show in the future.
I
So,
think so too.
exactly. So, while we have talked a little bit about challenge, art, facing tribulations, and how, art and creativity can be a sort of escape, are there any final words you'd like to leave our audience with to, get them thinking about the impact that, some of these subtopics that we mentioned um, could have some sort of significance?
Uh, I don't know. I think that many times, like when we are facing like adversity or something that we think that we are not fit for that, or most of the times I have realized that it's on our minds. It's not, because sometimes there are other people out there that they push us to say, oh no, you are not allowed here, no, this is not for you. But that's not the real problem. It's more us believing that we can do it. And many times I think it's the best way to go is not to think about it, uh, not to think that there is a wall there, and just just don't look don't look there, just keep going, and one day you look up and it's like you're at the other side,
Mhm.
um, so but in a way, I think that having problems and struggling and having a hard time, unfortunately, is the best way to learn. So even though I think it's really good to help as much as we can. As I said before, we are gonna always struggle a lot. So we just better learn to live with that and have good spirits and keep
Mm-hmm.
going. And always, I don't know, look for help. And if you can, you never know when you're gonna find help. It usually happens like in the more unexpected places and unexpected people. That's really amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You never know the impact you're going to have on someone. You never know how someone else is going to impact you. And the human psyche of an individual is like a double-edged sword. So you mentioned that, um, we're our own worst critics and whatnot, in that if we think too hard about something, it might stop us from moving forward. But
Mhm.
while we are our own worst critics, we are also our own biggest advocates. And no one is going to advocate for you the way that you can. And, we only live this life once. We come into it by ourselves and we leave it by ourselves as well. So I think that your advice and insight that we should just do it, like Nike says, is so true. And if we are holding ourselves back, we will probably regret the things that we might have had the chance to experience while we were holding ourselves to some standard that we didn't even know was in place.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, also like I ask people not to be like me in the sense that I always have been very shy. I never knew how to sell my work. So I encourage everyone to overcome that and be more outspoken and like, just promote yourself, because it's the only way that other people are going to know what you do. If you do nothing, it's going to be um, that thing that somebody is going to discover you suddenly. Oh, I'm just gonna wait for the miracle to happen. No, you have to you have to work on that.
Yeah, you have to make it, and you have to take a chance on yourself because, like we said, if probably no one else is going to if you don't even do it for yourself. So, I hope that everyone who has been listening today is as impacted from this conversation as I am. And I'd like to thank you all for joining me and Raymond on this journey that we went through. And I'd like to thank you, of course, Raymond, for coming and, sharing your insight on the show and taking a chance on Love Caravan to, talk about art and challenge and play a little bit of a fun game, might I add. So, yeah. Um, I just want to thank everybody for coming and being part of this episode with us.
And thank you so much. It was fun.
Of course. All right, everybody.